y'all, it's Kay from the Literary Apothecary and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to do my October wrap up with my November TBR. This is probably going to be a quickish video because I had a very busy weekend this weekend and I am exhausted. So I don't have much in my tank for videos, but I wanted to make sure I got this out this week. So in October, I technically read 16 books and 1 essay. Although a lot of those books, as you'll see when I go through them, were novellas, either part of the Nightmareland Chronicles series or part of the speculative fiction indie novella competition. So a lot of these 16 books are novellas, so they were short. That's why I got through so many. With these 16 books, I had 3 5 stars, 4 4.5 stars, 3 4 stars, 2 3.5 stars, 2 3 stars, and 1 2 star. My favorite book that I read in October, I think I have to say, is Sleepwalking by Daniel Barnett. This book was so good, and I'll get to that in just a minute. So I'm going to go really quickly through the books that I read in October in the order of when I finished them, and just go over quickly my rating and maybe a thought or two about the book. First up, we have Clean Incel by R.Z. Held. This one is one of my novellas that I read for the novella competition. This one I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was written well, however, I had a hard time attaching to any of the characters, and I had a hard time imagining the characters and the way that they were described. Next up, we have Winter's Heart by Robert Jordan. This is, of course, book 9 in the Wheel of Time series. This one I also gave 4 out of 5 stars. This one I thought was done really well, although there were some times that felt a little bit slower than usual. After that, I finished Nightfall by Daniel Barnett. This is book 1 in the Nightmareland Chronicles series. You're going to hear me talking a lot about this series in this video because I have read almost the entire series up to date now. So this was book 1. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. I was absolutely blown away. Daniel Barnett's writing was just so beautiful. Speaking of Daniel Barnett, our next book up is book 2 in the Nightmareland Chronicles series. That's Lullaby. This one I also gave 5 out of 5 stars, and I thought it was just done amazing. After that, I finished The Chase Begins by Amy Donnellan. This is another novella for the novella competition. This one I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was the characters were great. The story was good. It just ended before I thought it was going to be, so the pacing felt a little off for me. So 3.5 stars for The Chase Begins. The Return of the Knights by Gregory Kontaxis, another 3.5 star read for me. I thought that the writing was good, but it was a little bit slow for me, and I had a hard time connecting to some of our characters because they felt so distant. The Return of the Native by Thomas Hardy. This one I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This was a reread for me. I read this book originally in physical format, and I DNF'd it. I gave it 2 stars. I probably should have DNF'd it. I this time listened to the audiobook narrated by Alan Rickman, and he made it a lot better than I originally thought. He had me more invested in it and interested in the story, but it was still just so hard to follow along. Sleepwalking by Daniel Barnett. This is book 3 in the Nightmareland Chronicles series. This is another 5 out of 5 stars, and as I said, this is my favorite book that I read in October and my favorite book in the series so far. You had Daniel Barnett's beautiful writing in this with the story, and it just felt like everything just was coming together so well that I just was hooked. Soulless by Gail Carriger. This one I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars. This was such a fun book about main character who's born without a soul and is best friends with a vampire and possible love interest of a werewolf, and a spinster, very shrewd and straight to the point, and she's just so relatable. I loved the characters in Soulless. Servant of a Pale Sword by Tim Akers. This was another novella I read for the Sphinx competition. This one I gave 2 out of 5 stars. I just really wasn't sure what the story we were supposed to be following here was. It felt like we picked up mid-story without any kind of explanation. Our character had memory loss, and it was just really hard for me to follow along. The Flashlighters by Daniel Barnett, book 4 in the Nightmareland Chronicles series. This one I also gave 4.5 out of 5 stars. Solace of Memory by Allegra Pescatore. This one I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars. The characters are really great in this. The story was great. I just wanted more. City of Blood, book 5 in the Nightmareland Chronicles series by Daniel Barnett. This one I also gave 4.5 out of 5 stars. These two books, City of Blood and The Flashlighters, they were good. They were really, really great. Just felt like they were missing something that the first 3 books had. And some parts in these books were a little too far out there for me. The last novella I finished in October was Nayari, Traveler of the Circle by Noor El Shanti. This one I gave 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a good start, but it just needed more. It felt like it was only the start of a novella, more like a good short story, less like a novella. And so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. And then the last book that I finished in October was the Star Wars trilogy. This is, of course, A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. All of these are novelizations of the films. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. That is an averaged rating of the 3 books. I enjoyed this experience a lot, although there were some scenes and moments I felt like were hard for me to imagine and worked better in the film. And some of the nostalgia kind of wore off after A New Hope. But I enjoyed it overall, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Now let's talk about my carryovers. Books that I didn't quite finish in October that I'll hope to finish in November. These include Crossroads of Twilight by Robert Jordan, book 10 in the Wheel of Time series. Lily by Daniel Barnett. This is book 6 and the most recent book we have in the Nightmareland Chronicles series. No Safe Haven. I got the arc for this book in October. I started it right away. This is by James Lloyd Doolin, book 2 in the Mulatu series. I believe that one just came out, if I'm not mistaken. And also Weird Sisters by Terry Pratchett, which is technically book 2 in the Witches series. I'm really enjoying that one. I miss Terry Pratchett's humor. And then the last book I will hopefully be carrying over and finishing in November is I Can't Make This Up by Kevin Hart. This was a book that John and I had started on audiobook months ago, and we're hoping to get back to that and finish it up so we can get on to more audiobooks. Now let's talk about my November TBR. My November TBR is going to be a lot shorter than y'all remember. I have been cutting back further and further as we go along, and this one is mostly the last set of novellas for the Sphinx competition, with a couple books thrown in there for fun. So let's start with our novellas first. The last 4 novellas that I will be reading as part of a judge. I may add in some more after I finish these, but these are the last 4 that I will consider in my judging of the novellas. Starbinder by Mark Timoney, Traders Unseen by Dave Dolson, Becoming Solo by Joyce Reynolds Ward, and Audition by Rachel Numier. I am really excited to finish up these novellas and see which one takes the prize. So far, out of all the novellas I've read, the very first one I read, Shattered Spirits by Cal Black, has had a very strong lead. We'll see if one of these 4 can take the lead from Cal. Of course, I'll update you all along the way. And I've got that reading vlog going also, so you'll see my thoughts as I'm reading them too. The remainder of the books on my November TBR include New Spring by Robert Jordan. This is the prequel to the Wheel of Time series, and I'm told this one is a lot shorter than most of the books, so I'm hoping to get that one done. Bitter End by J.D. Cunningham and Legacy of the Bright Wash by Krista Matar. these are my 2 self-pub books for November. Of course, I made an announcement in the community part of my channel. Just because of my schedule and work being a lot busier and school, I am putting a hold on the Self-Pub Sunday episodes after the one with Daniel Barnett coming up this weekend. But I will still be reading my self-pub books and giving dedicated reviews for these books. Just won't have the authors on quite yet, so I can kind of get caught up and realign myself. And then the last book on my November TBR is The Mystery Guest by Nita Prose. This is the sequel to The Maid by Nita Prose that we read with Leslie at the Nerdy Narrative several months ago. I really enjoyed that book, so we're going to be reading The Mystery Guest together. The last thing on my TBR is, of course, our Joan Didion Essay of the Month. This month we'll be reading Bureaucrats. Leslie's already read it and absolutely loved it. I hope to get that in maybe this afternoon, definitely this week, before we leave for New York, because we're going to New York for a couple weeks for a work trip and some, you know, well-deserved R&R rest and relaxation in the Big Apple. So I'm really excited for that, and that is my October wrap-up and my November TBR. As always, let me know in the comments below if you've read any of the books that I've talked about. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Where I should start with my November TBR. As always, my Patreon and my Discord information will be in the description below. Keep reading, and I love y'all to the moon and back. Bye.